Yeah, so Tony, on the interesting, you said as a child you were a talker. So as an adult, you talk through the drum to some degree. Well, again, now, how or who introduced you to the drum?
Well, my first teacher was Baba Eric Rucker. Many people know him as Suleiman Rucker, who came back to the Pittsburgh area in the late 1980s. And it was during that period that my wife and I started attending some of his workshops that were held at the University of Pittsburgh. During that time, he was doing some work with Shona Sharif and the ensemble there. So for a 2 or 3 year period, my wife and I and our sons, our twin boys, Anthony and Dante, had an opportunity to take courses from Eric Rucker, and that was followed by the opportunity to take some courses and some classes with Yusu Lo, who had come to Pittsburgh in the early 1990s. Yusu was involved in a group, Ballet Boogaraboo, that had just recently come into the United States. So during that period, my wife and I and our sons, we think, had a good foundation that had been established by Eric Rucker and then later Yusu Lo. In the latter part of the 1990s, we had an opportunity to travel with Yusu to Senegal, West Africa, where we had a wonderful experience meeting his family, living with his family, seeing the representation of African dance and drum among the Wolof people of Senegal. We returned back to Senegal in 2003 with Yusu and had an opportunity to continue to further our development. During that period, we also noted that our sons, Anthony and Dante, were really developing a high level of skill, and we were very pleased with that. So we continued to encourage and support their development as percussionists. In 2003, I also had the opportunity to participate in a Fulbright Hayes grant, and I spent 6 weeks in Ghana with Dr. Joseph Ajay from the University of Pittsburgh. And that was a wonderful opportunity to see Ghanaian culture, specifically the culture that produces the social life that supports their music. And most recently, as a matter of fact, just a few months ago, my wife and I had an opportunity to travel to Guinea, West Africa, with Yamusa Kamara and Mito Kamara from here now. And so over the last 20 or so years, I think the Mitchell family has been blessed to have known excellent teachers of African dance and drum, and also to have had the opportunity to see the functional life of the music in the people's culture, in their customs, and in their ways of living. So that's kind of a snapshot of our journey over the past 20 plus years.
Okay, well, this study of Africa and African dance and drum and its culture, why is that important to a brother from Aliquippa?
Well, I think it's very important because one of the first things that you start to appreciate is the journey of our people from West Africa and Central Africa into the Western Hemisphere, whether we find ourselves in Panama, whether we find ourselves in Cuba, whether we find ourselves in Puerto Rico, whether we find ourselves in the South or in the North, in a place like Aliquippa. We are very much a rich people. We are very much a musical people. And in looking at that experience and journey across several centuries, you can definitely appreciate the contributions of our ancestors in Western Central Africa to the music that we love and the music that we have created, but also the connections as it relates to the expression of this music. So whether it's the traditional expression of djembe culture, or if it's listening to jazz or listening to hip hop, you can find common themes and elements that are very much dynamic in the diaspora, and certainly among African Americans. Call and response, very rich in the Black church experience. In jazz, solo improvisation, very much fundamental to how a jazz musician expresses his feeling for the music and interpretation of the music. All of these themes can be captured in West African dance and West African drum. You can certainly see that today in the early expressions of hip hop, and you can still see that evident today in our social life and community life.